30 million years ago, Africa was a land of chaos and rebirth. Vast rivers carved through dense jungles, flooding valleys and reshaping the world. Across this wild and unforgiving land, a small group of ancient primates began a journey that would change history forever. Sound of insects, wind, and flowing rivers. The earth of this age was raw and untamed. Volcanoes rumbled in the distance. Torrential rains fed swollen rivers that split forests apart. The land we now know as Africa was a patchwork of lush jungle and endless savanna, a cradle of life and death. Among the branches, primitive primates, our distant ancestors, clung to survival. They were small, barely the size of a child, covered in thick fur with curious eyes that scanned the canopy for danger. They lived in tight groups, relying on one another to find fruit, avoid predators, and protect their young. But the climate was shifting. Rains became unpredictable. Rivers flooded their homes. And deep beneath the earth, tectonic forces were tearing the continent apart. Low rumbling sound. What began as a season of floods would become an age of migration. Thunder cracks, heavy rain begins. As the great rivers swelled, entire forests were drowned. Trees toppled into raging torrents, and islands of land vanished overnight. For the primate clans, it was a disaster. Food was scarce. Nesting trees disappeared. Predators like the saber-toothed cat and massive crocodiles prowled the waters, waiting for a chance to strike. The leader of one small troop, a strong, gray-furred male called Kaen, faced an impossible choice: stay and starve, or cross the flooded river to unknown lands. At dawn, as mist rose from the water, Kaen led his group to the edge. The current roared like thunder. Branches and carcasses rushed past. They hesitated. The fear of the river was ancient. But behind them, the jungle burned from lightning strikes, and survival lay only on the far shore. One by one, they climbed onto fallen logs, their fragile rafts, and pushed into the torrent. The crossing was chaos. Waves crashed over their makeshift rafts. Some were swept away, screaming into the dark water. A mother clung to her infant, her eyes wide with terror. Beneath them, shadows moved. Ancient crocodiles, longer than a man, their jaws snapping through the spray. Kaen roared to rally his clan. He leaped from log to log, pulling the young and weak to safety. Hours passed. The rain stopped. The survivors, exhausted and trembling, reached the opposite bank. They had crossed the river, but the cost was heavy. Only half remained. As the survivors collapsed on the muddy shore, the first rays of sunlight broke through the storm clouds. And for the first time, Kaen looked out across a new world. A world of open plains, strange trees, and endless horizon. The new land was harsher, drier, but full of opportunity. Here, vast herds of prehistoric antelope grazed. Giant flightless birds stalked through tall grass packs of hyenodonts. Ancient bone crushers roamed in the distance. The primates learned quickly. They left the safety of trees more often, walking upright for short distances to see above the grass. They learned to dig for roots, to crack nuts with stones. Every adaptation meant survival. Over generations, they spread, following rivers north, east, and south. Some reached the fertile edges of Arabia. Others would one day cross into Asia and Europe. The migration had begun, not just of bodies, but of minds. These primates were becoming something new: thinkers, explorers, survivors. Thousands of years passed. Tribes rose and fell. In each generation, courage and curiosity pushed them farther. They watched the stars. They learned the rhythms of the moon and rain. They began to understand the power of togetherness. That survival depended not just on strength, but on cooperation. When predators attacked, they fought together. When rivers flooded again, they built rafts, stronger and smarter each time. And somewhere deep within their minds, the first spark of intelligence, the seed of humanity, began to glow. Today, when we look into the mirror, we see the echo of Kaen and his clan, those ancient primates who refused to die in the flood. Their journey across the rivers of Africa was more than a migration. It was the first step in the story of us, every child born, every discovery made, every dream imagined. It all traces back to that moment when courage overcame fear and life found a way forward. They were not yet human, but they carried the spirit that would define humanity: the will to explore, to endure, to hope. This is the forgotten chapter of our origins, a tale written not in words but in the footprints left on muddy shores 30 million years ago. If you've enjoyed this journey into our ancient past, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the dawn of life. Every week we explore the worlds that came before, where the first sparks of humanity began to burn. This is life 30 million years ago, the great primate exodus, where survival became destiny, and destiny became us.